To the Postgame Show. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and Brian Robison, lifetime Longhorns. Man, Brian, you got to smile right now. You got to show us those big choppers. I know you guys are excited right now. You guys been in this game. Steve Sarkisian and this Texas Longhorn team took the Sooners to the woodshed. It didn't always look pretty. The first quarter was ugly as ugly gets, just about, especially on offense. But, man, they hold the Sooners without a touchdown 2 out of the last 3 seasons now, by the way. Brent Venables has some work to do on this offense of his. But in the meantime, we'll take the W and go on to Austin 6-0. The Texas Longhorns, number 1 ranked team in the country, defeat the Oklahoma Sooners. Thank you to our sponsor, Flight from Yingling. We appreciate them. We were out there at the tent on the fairgrounds earlier today. The place was hopping, guys. I was out there with Tony Hills, and I got to tell you guys this, okay, because y'all all know about what's going on inside the stadium, 75,000 people yelling and screaming. That place is a madhouse outside the stadium as well. A lot of fun. But let's talk a little bit about this win. Rod, I'll go to you first, and Brian, you're up next. What'd you think, buddy?
Listen, we all know that Quinn was a little off, whether we talk about rust or whether, coming off the injury, he was a little bit indecisive because of the injury, whatever, doesn't matter. Quinn was off, and that's all right, because trust me, there are some games y'all can bring up. Rod B had off games in my prime too. But the beauty of this team, and I think they showed it, honestly, the last 2 weeks, because they did not play to the standard the last 2 weeks, and yet they still were able to win by 3+ touchdowns. That means that this team can win in more than one way. Even with Quinn being a little bit off, even not playing to their standard last week, this team still can end up putting an Old Testament style butt whipping on opponents. So to me, that is a revelation. And also, I talk about the Sark runs, right? That the Sark team has a run that's characteristic of his teams, right? It'll be competitive, and then you'll look up and it'll be a 7-8 minute stretch in the game where Sark's team scored 3 or 4 touchdowns, and then they pull away from an opponent. It happened against Mississippi State, except in the fourth quarter, right? That's when they pulled away. And we've seen that even when Sark's first year, he was pulling away from teams, but they couldn't hold those leads, and teams would come back, and now it's a different story. This was the first time that I remember the run largely being attributed to the defense and not the offense. It was the defense that sparked and that maintained the run. It was their run. It usually is an offensive run, then defense contributes, special teams contributes to the run, but it's offense. They roll it. You can't stop them. 5-play drives, touchdowns. And this game, Quinn was off. Offense, couldn't find their groove, but the defense just started piling on. That last 3 minutes of the first half, defense forced multiple turnovers, and they just piled it on. That was, to me, what was unique about the run this time. And speaking of running, the run games saved us. It was also first game where I admit, I've said several times, people ask me in national radio shows, hey, what's the weakness with the Texas team that looks so good? I'm like, well, the run game is not a dominant run game. They can't impose their will. I don't know if they can win a game relying on the run game. Well, now I know they can win a game relying on the run game. So those are kind of my, I know those are my highlights. We can get to criticizing, but that's what made me feel good looking at the game.
I don't need no criticism today, man. I'm excited. 34-3, put the damn gold hat on and let's go. Brian Robison, this is from the Cambodian. All right. Thanks for the super chat. Brian, what'd you think of the butt whooping in Big D?
Well, hey, I'm going to reiterate a lot of stuff that Rod has already said. I think we kind of got on here a little bit before we started, and I think we're going to agree on a lot of stuff today. Listen, it was shaky. There is no doubt about it. It started off a little worrisome, but when you can win against that, hey, this is a good Oklahoma football team, especially their defense. They're very physical. They fly to the ball. I still think they're a good football team, but when you can win a game like this, 34-3, and it didn't look pretty, that is a good problem to have, especially when you look right now. Georgia's in a 10-point ball game with Mississippi State. Alabama almost loses again today. I mean, the parity in college football right now, it is not easy to win. And on any given Saturday, somebody can beat you, whether it's a Vanderbilt. It doesn't matter who it is. We've seen it almost every weekend this year that somebody sneaks up and beats somebody that they shouldn't. But that is the reality of college football with the NIL deals, the transfer portal. The talent has been spread all across the country. So that brings me to my point. Are there some things that Texas can work on after this game? Absolutely 100%. And that is hard to say after a 34-3 walloping that they just put on. So knowing that and knowing what you've got to do moving forward, that gives you a lot of confidence in this Texas football team moving forward, is knowing you still have not, in my opinion, played your best game yet.
Not against a quality opponent. Absolutely agree with that, Brian. Absolutely agree with that. Hey, a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk next about our play of the game because we all agreed on this briefly before we got going, because it was a huge difference maker and momentum keeper, if the right word is that. But first, before we talk about Silas Bolden, we need to say thank you to Flight, the next generation of light beer with just 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 carbs. Flight's an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling. Thanks to the fine folks at Flight and Yuengling for their hospitality all day today, including this morning out at the State Fair, and our friends at Faust Distributing it as well. All right, Brian, I'm going to you because I want to get you back on this. How big was that Silas Bolden play? Because I think that was the play of the game. Texas had suffered already one turnover, and it looked like it could have been two when Trey Wisner almost fumbled out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was the play of the game. There's no doubt about it because, one, if he fumbles that ball and it goes out of the end zone, that is a huge momentum changer. And momentum really would go back to Oklahoma, because they give themselves an opportunity to get the ball back within 4 points. I think it would have been a 7-3 ball game there, with the opportunity to go down and take the lead. So that could have been a very big momentum changer. But then to talk about Silas Bolden, not really even in the play, but the ability to hustle down there, pass up OU defenders to get the ball, really shows what this team is built on and the character they have as a football team, that, hey, you're never out of the play. Everybody has, something about them that's gritty that they got to do. And Silas, he's going to be known as a pass-catching wide receiver, punt returner, kickoff returner type guy. But for a long time, Texas fans are going to talk about that play, going in there, scoring that touchdown, and really keeping momentum on the side of Texas going into the rest of that game.
I completely agree. Rod B., what do you think, buddy?
No, I mean, Brian's right. It was one of those plays where it really defined the culture these guys talk about so often. It was a culture warrior play. I believe that's my man Jerry Hamilton's term. Culture warrior play where, you watching Silas Bolden and, he's just hustling. He's been taught not to loaf. All right. So in that moment, the play is past him. He could loaf. He could be like, I did my job. It's past me now. Ain't nothing I could do. But he doesn't loaf. Because why? Because he's on the football field. On the football field, you don't loaf, right? Even when Brian, when they got you going from station to station, like, hey, get on the hop, guys. Get on the hop now. You're on the football field. You don't walk. And that's basically what he was doing. He's like, nah, man, I'm on the field, so I'm going down. You can tell he does that in practice too. When they break it in practice, he just runs down. All right, that's just the hustle. And then an opportunity presents itself, right? And what they say about luck, when preparation meets opportunity, that was it for him. He had been preparing for that moment, hustling down every play in practice, like, hey, all right, go, because he's going down to show his boy some love too. He's like, I gotta go down touchdown celebration, man. Let me get down there. Boy, about to score. And then he's like, and then boom, opportunity right there in his face. That's a culture play. And you know what? It was very much reminiscent. Jared was talking about that Jay Witt play. Jay Witt versus TCU. We all remember it. They get the pick. Jay Witt misses the tackle, but then he goes back down. All right. I think it was TCU. He goes back down and he's making a tackle, and then he forces the fumble, and then Texas, and then they get it back. And it's like, that was an amazing play. And we all watched it and went from that moment. That was one of the best plays of the year. period. I mean, top 3 plays of the year because it was just Jay Witt being unselfish, being a great teammate, and hustling. And that's what happened with Silas Bolden. And I'm glad he got rewarded for it. He deserved it. That was the play. That's the play that turned it. You're right, because it was 7-3 at the time. It was still going back and forth, guys. It was still a little fight back and forth. And that started the momentum, that monopolized the momentum. Texas got it, and then the defense fed off it, and then they forced turnovers. And then the last 2 minutes, you scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of that half, and then the game was over. And was like, dang.
And the very next play from scrimmage after that touchdown, Texas scored another touchdown on a long Trey Wisner run.
Yep.
It looked like the same type of play, little cutback off of a wide zone. They caught the Oklahoma linebackers overflowing to the ball, I thought. The cutback lanes were there all day for Trey Wisner. I got to mention this, and I also want to say this about Silas Bolden. He also contributed in the punt return game today.
Yep.
That was really nicely. He was fearless. That was the word that was used about him in preseason camp by Sark as well as some other coaches on staff. Fearless. He looked fearless today with a couple of punt returns. One got him out of deep in a hole, and the other one set up a field goal by Sark, and they're in the fourth quarter. All right, this one, Antonio Harris with the super chat. Trey Wisner, Silas Bolden, Ant Hill, all heart. Antonio, you took the words out of our mouths because who is our offensive player of the game? Brian, I'll let you break it down, bud.
Yeah, I think for me it's pretty easy. It's got to be Trey Wisner. I mean, you came out there, you thought Jaden Blue was really going to be the feature guy in this game, and I think Sark realized pretty early on that he was the guy that was going to have the hot hand. I mean, you see it there: 13 rushes for 118 yards, and really and truly, I think at one point he had 7 rushes for like 103 or something like that. So it was crazy. I mean, the dude just made play after play. Obviously, he had the one fumble. You could tell quickly he learned from it because the very next touchdown, he got to the 2-yard line and both hands went on that ball. So you could tell coaches said something to him. But, man, what a breakout game for him. I mean, you get your opportunity in a Red River rivalry. That is an opportunity where legends are born. And I think Trey got his opportunity to go down as kind of a legend for this year's game, no doubt.
13 for 118, 1 touchdown, ran that 43-yard touchdown to give Texas a 21-3 lead just before half, averaged more than 9 yards a carry. Sark found something in that late in that first half, midway through the second quarter, finding those cutback lanes, and with the safeties playing so deep for Oklahoma, once they broke that first level of the defense, there was really no one there to get after him. Offensive line gave up 1 sack on the day, by the way, and it came on the first drive. Quinn Ewers turned the ball over 1 time today, and it was also on the very first drive. Otherwise, they had a very relatively clean pocket for Quinn Ewers on Saturday after that first quarter. They did something to adjust the pass protection, and whatever that Sark did, they did it. Rod B., what do you think about the defensive player of the game for us? Because Gabe Eichert, the former Oklahoma Sooner, may want to retract something he said earlier this week when he said that Anthony Hill was the weakness of the Longhorn defense.
Yeah, he did say, I think he said attack number 0, he's good. So he did give him some props, by the way. I want to throw it out. He said he's good, but the worst player in their front 7. So essentially, he's just saying the front 7 is really, really good. He's just saying the front 7 is amazing. Like, it's just elite players all across front 7. And think about how good Anthony Hill is. Well, everybody else around him is better than he is. So that's how good Texas front 7 is. I think that's what he's trying to say. But he's wrong because Anthony Hill is one of the best players in that front 7. And he proved it today with his stat line, which is unbelievable. Ended up having 11 tackles, 7 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss, had a quarterback hurry, and a forced fumble. He went beast mode in this game. So, yeah, he's our defensive player of the game. And I'm sure, I don't know if he's going to put it out there, but he might have something on social media to say about the Gabe Eichert tweet. I'm sure he might have.
Hey, I got to ask y'all because, look, the Texas defense carried this Longhorns team through that first quarter.
Yeah, they did.
They really did for a quarter and a half, really. And then, Oklahoma didn't even score a touchdown today. What y'all think about the defense? Oh, here's Anthony Hill. Oh, no.
Wow. Oh, man.
Oh.
Whoa.
What's that mean?
Okay. Okay.
Hey, seriously, about the defense, guys.
Wow.
What y'all think overall? Obviously, a freshman quarterback for OU just wasn't ready for prime time. I think that's a fair notion. But the defense had a great game plan too, I think.
Yeah, the defense had a great. I mean, they knew the limitations of the Oklahoma offense. Being down their top 5 wide receivers. Starting a true freshman at quarterback, first time in program history that Oklahoma started a true freshman at quarterback in a Texas OU game. I think they understood that you could, as the game progressed slowly, and I don't know how many passes, but I think, Brian, I counted maybe 2, maybe 3 passes they threw past 15 yards all game long. So, yeah, more and more the DBs are becoming more and more aggressive. They're probably starting to flat foot read more and more of those passing plays as you get deep into the game. So they became more aggressive, and Oklahoma couldn't make you pay for that aggression. Usually teams can make you pay for being overly aggressive. They couldn't make you pay for it. So Texas was just teeing off. It was just everybody was fat. They were fast flow to the football, and there was nothing really Oklahoma could do. So I think it was a great game plan, but I'll admit the opponent was very limited, no doubt.
What do you think, Brian, of the game plan and the defense as a whole?
Man, I thought, dude, I'm gonna tell you, I think the defensive game plan was genius, right? And I'll tell you why. Number one, I need to just start saying ridiculous stuff on social media. All the views that comment got, golly, I need to start saying some stuff. Okay, I want to air that out real quick, but man, let me tell you, I got some notes here. That's why I keep looking to the right here, but. Man, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, okay, how are they going to handle, and we talked about it a little bit last week, how are they going to handle Hawkins, right? Are you going to spy a guy? Are you going to blitz him? Like, what are you going to do, right? And I think they came up with the most genius play calling game that they could have, which is keep Oklahoma off kilter. They don't know what we're going to do, because originally when they first took the field, I thought, I see what's happening here. They're going to take Anthony Hill and they're going to spy Hawkins all day with him. The next thing you know, like Anthony Hill's on the edge and he's blitzing, he's rushing, he's in the middle, he's spying, he's dropping in coverage. They did a plethora of things to keep Michael Hawkins off kilter, because now he can't zone in and say zero is going to spy me, so therefore I don't have to count him into the protection count. Well, now when you show, he's coming off the edge, he's coming up the middle, he's spying, he's doing this, doing that. Well, now you have to account for him no matter what. And now you don't know who the spy is. You don't know. And let's hats off to the DBs. There was not many open receivers just running around. And like you said, Rod, I get it. They did not have their 5 top receivers. I get that. I understand that. This game probably would have been a lot closer with those guys. Do I think they would have won this game? No, absolutely not. So forget all the excuses Oklahoma fans are going to say. But my point to that is he was already a little bit behind the 8 ball. Then with the play calling that Texas did, I think that really threw him for a loop, because he couldn't account for the guys that he wanted to account for. He couldn't take the guys out of the blitz protection that he wanted to take out of the blitz protection, which kept Oklahoma offense off kilter. You saw early in the game, the Oklahoma offense had some success on some edge running plays, and I think some of it was because, like we did in Minnesota, if you see a guy coming from the backside, you got to either hit that guy solid or get underneath that block. Well, when Oklahoma saw that, they took advantage of it. They got to the edge. If you notice later in the game, they made it look very much the same, but what they did was they told the ends, hey, play the option inside out. We will have a guy come downhill on the outside. And if you look at it, there was a lot of times that there was a defensive end, whether it's Trey Moore. Let's talk about him. He had some plays early in the game that the quarterback got outside of him. Yeah. You look later in the game, he was chasing that quarterback inside out like it was designed. And now you had a safety or a linebacker playing over the top that now has the pitch man, but could also play the quarterback outside in. So you're creating a vice on the quarterback while also having a pitch player, which made a freshman quarterback have to make the tough decision. Do I just get hit by two guys or do I pitch the ball? Well, in his idea, the pitch wasn't there, so I've got to take the hit. And I think it created a lot of confusion for such a young quarterback, any quarterback, but for such a young quarterback, it created a lot of confusion for him, not only in the pass game, but the run game as well.
That's great stuff there. I love Colin Simmons in that role. When you can roll out Anthony Hill, Mo Blackwell, David Benda, Colin Simmons, and Trey Moore as your guys that can actually go around and chase a little bit, it's pretty salty. I mean, because Ethan Burke showed a little bit of juice too in his legs today, chasing folks. So look, I thought the Longhorn defense with a whale of a game plan and executed it very well as well. Roy Hinojosa with a super chat. Why was Bobby so worried about OU? Needed to take anxiety pills all week. That's me every OU week. That's the way it happens with me, buddy. Just know it. Anyone heard about Gabe Eichert? He has been MIA after Ant Hill called him out like age like milk. Good old fashioned butt whipping. Hey, let's talk about this one, guys. We mentioned Trey Weiser as the offensive player of the game. If you were to give a second game ball outside of the offensive line, who may deserve the whole game ball at some level because they kept clean in that from the second quarter on. How about Gunnar Helm's performance? Osase the Destroyer. I don't know how Gunnar Helm doesn't jump other TEs in draft rankings after his performance. That dude has constantly found a way to lead this team. Texas may be better at tight end this year than they were a year ago.
Well, let's talk about that just real quick, Bobby. Yeah. I mean, because if you really want to go to a momentum builder, let's talk about how Quinn was really struggling early in the game. And it seemed like when he found the one outlet to Gunnar Helm and Gunnar was able to get up the sideline, break a tackle, even though he tried to jump over another DB and the DB got him, that was a big momentum changer for the offense and Quinn Ewers. Like, he was really the guy that kind of got that started. And then that was when everything kind of fell in line. That was when Quintravion Wisener really started taking over in the run game. Helm ended up making another play later in the game. I mean, he's not going to show up. I mean, five receptions, 91 yards. That's pretty dang good for a tight end. And if you really think about it, every game that it seems like Texas has needed a play on offense, Gunnar Helm has been there for that. You look at the Michigan game. He really took over that game, if you really want to get down to it. And then you look at many other games, like he's always been an easy outlet for Quinn or Arch, where he just finds a knack for getting open. He's a mismatch nightmare for DBs, I mean, because of his size and things like that. But then also for linebackers, like his athletic ability, not a lot of people are going to talk about his athletic ability. The dude's an athlete, man. For being 260 pounds, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a guy like Mark Andrews, who was at Oklahoma, just a big, a big guy, big body that can not only block, but also could find a way to break tackles, get up the sideline. And so I think Gunnar Helm is definitely helping his draft stock this year as the year goes on.
He looks like he's the hot read a lot for Quinn on blitzes. That's one of the things I noticed today too, in that regard. So congratulations to him. He's having a whale of seats. Hey, I want to update folks a little bit on injuries real quick, if you don't mind. Any news on Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver that went out in the first half, guys? I am told that he returned to the sideline in street clothes, okay, during the third quarter, and was in a walking boot the whole time. So I have nothing further than that, although he did return in street clothes and was in a walking boot. Also, no news yet on Derek Williams, who was forced out of the game on that kickoff return after making that stop. Derek Williams, by the way, with a big forced fumble as well. He and Anthony Hill both with back-to-back forced fumbles on the Sooners today. That's all I have on that on the injury situation. I do want to say I think Andrew Makuba might have been dinged up a little bit today too, because I did not see him play much in the second half as well. Yeah. So get going there. This one from John Franks. Jerry, I told y'all last week that we would earn our D in times of adversity. Rod B, we are witnessing the no Diddy D.
Oh, man. Oh no.
Our job strikes.
Oh.
What do you think,
Oh,
bud?
No. I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to call him the no Diddy D, but I understand what you're talking about. I get you. No, listen, the defense, I think for Texas, they haven't yet. Next week will be a really big test, but I'll say that every potential problem and every potential issue that could have arisen this year that we thought would be a potential issue, the coaches and the players, they solve those issues. Like, we're worried about the interior D line not being able to hold up, the secondary, how much improvement we're going to see in the secondary, splash plays, whether they're going to be able to get sacks. And Brian told you those sacks would come in bunches. And what do we got? So 11 sacks now in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's I didn't know that's the bunches, I guess you was talking about, me, Rob, because we're starting to see it. That's for sure.
Hey, I'm getting asked this question, and I think it's a great one. How many touchdowns has the Texas defense given up this year? 1 against Michigan, 1 against UTSA,
3.
1 against Mississippi State.
3. Yeah, 3.
They've given up 3 touchdowns in 6 games.
3 so far.
I don't care if you're playing Little Sisters of the Poor. That's really good stuff. Thanks for mentioning that and so much more and bringing it to our attention. Thank you to Jack Lala. Good seeing you. I had lunch with Jack a couple weekends ago. He was an awesome guy over at Dirty Martin's. I appreciate you, buddy. And then also this one from Barry Hamilton. Bolden's recovery in the end zone, play of the game. We agree with you. Absolutely. The guys here, Brian and Rod, absolutely said it was a momentum keeper or a culture play, I guess is one of the things that you guys talked about. That's playing for the guys around you. I completely agree. It was playing for the guys around you. All right, we've got the other things we want to talk about. I got to ask you guys a little bit more about Quinn's play early. Do you think he just looked off? Whether it was rust, whether it was issues with getting back into rhythm. He threw a ball high. His feet didn't really get set. Even on that 4th down in the third quarter that Sark went for it, he just didn't look completely like himself, but maybe he's playing himself back in. What did y'all think? I want to say this. One thing he did do today, other than that first interception, he took darn good care of the ball. I thought he did really good job of that.
Yeah, he was just. I think it was rust. I think it was. I'm gonna say it was rust because some people are saying maybe he's still injured. I don't think that's the case. I think he was rusty, and that was pretty much why you saw him off early. I mean, that dagger throw early, the Matthew Golden in cut. I mean, he was wide open, and Quinn usually doesn't miss throws in the intermediate area like that. So, and he was high. It was high on a lot of those early throws too. So, I'm going to say that it was rust, but who knows? We'll know next week. And unfortunately, I think that's going to make a lot of Longhorn fans anxious.
It won't make me look, win or lose. Georgia will not make me as anxious as OU. I've forever had this OU anxiety pills that I need to take every year, just the way it is, man. Brian, you looked at this game and think about the Texas offense. What about the offensive line for the Longhorns? Let's take a little bit of time there because, look, Texas, if Matt will put up the final stats here, Texas definitely controlled the clock and the game from the second period on. They were able to protect for Quinn, but really the run game got going as well. They were getting hat on a hat and moving OU off the ball. What did you think of that Texas O-line?
Yeah, I mean, I think tremendous game from them, honestly. I mean, I think when you look at it, number 32, what's his name?
R. Mason Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very good rusher. And he honestly, outside of maybe 1 or 2 plays, I don't think he had any effect on Quinn at all. I think he's probably their best pass rusher. And I think, you look early in the game, there was maybe 1 or 2 opportunities that they had to kind of really get down on Quinn. And other than that, they just kind of took the ball game over. I think in the run game, Rod said it earlier, I think a lot of us coming into a game like this probably thought, man, if we have to run the ball, can we really win? Well, I don't know if I'd really feel comfortable in the fact that if we have to run, what kind of ball game it's going to be. But how can you not feel really good about it when every time it seems like Texas has needed to put a ball game away, they lay their hat on the run and they say, hey, we're going to let our big guys up front put this thing away. And they don't just do it, but they do it in dominating fashion. It's like, we're going to run the ball and there's nothing you can do to stop it. We've watched that over the last 2 years, if I'm being honest with you. And that's a really good that's a really good feeling if you're a Texas fan, knowing that you have that type of offensive line up there. But man, I just think utterly up front, our offensive line totally dominated OU's defensive line. Really and truly, their front seven. I think a lot of it was weathering the storm, right? You know, they did get some negative plays and some at the line of scrimmage plays in the run game early on, but you could see where the size of this Texas offensive line, the strength of this Texas offense, they are going to have the ability to wear people down as the game goes on. And so a lot of it just comes down to, can they weather the storm? And then when they do, like, you better be ready, because those 5 guys up front are coming for you, and there's probably nothing you can do about it.
I want to, Rod, you have anything to say or to add about the OL, buddy?
No, I think that's one of the groups that won the game for you. I totally agree. I mean, that's the offense was a little off. You didn't have the passing game because Quinn wasn't the best version of himself, but the offensive line was able to impose their will. And that was one of the question marks I had about this team. And against a good defense, they were able to answer that with a exclamation mark. Yes, they can run the football if they need to win a game.
By the way, we know that Jake Majors, that looked like it was going to be an ugly injury. He kept playing. He was fine on the sidelines after the game, I'm told, as well. So really happy about that, too. All right, I need to say thanks again to our sponsor for the post-game show. It's Flight, the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste at just 4.2 carbs. Flight's an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yingling, thanks to the fine folks at Yingling and Flight. Also, I want to say thank you to our game day sponsors all day long. Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. Duck Camp, the sportswear company for people that like to go camping and hunting and hiking. South Point Dodge, the folks over there on the Motor Mile in Austin, as well as Flat Creek Estate Winery. Appreciate their sponsorship all game long and all day long today for the Longhorns. All right, guys. For those of y'all just coming in, Longhorns win 34-3. It's a blowout, the second in 3 years for Steve Sarkisian and his team. They are now 6-0, likely to keep the number 1 ranking. I guess we'll see what Ohio State and Oregon have to say about that later today. But it was a convincing win nonetheless. The game was never really in doubt after a 14-point swing really late in the second quarter. Texas capitalizing on a pair of Oklahoma turnovers as well as a run game that we've been talking about. This one from William Nish, and this is part of that why Texas separated there right at the end of the second half, guys, or first half. Game balls to Bolden and the defense. I think Trey Weiser is now our top RB. The defense is legit. We agree. Roy Hinojosa, we are now bowl eligible and knock OU out of the college football playoff. I don't think they're headed there anyways this year. John Franks, here we go, guys. This one's a fun one. I'm drinking like Willie in the 60s and smoking like Ricky in the 90s. Hook 'em horns. Wow. Hope you're having fun, and I hope you're not driving. That was just be at home, buddy. Be at home. Hang out and have fun because it's a big win for the Texas Longhorns on Saturday. Brian, I want to ask you, when you look back at this game, or what are the couple of 2 or 3 things that you'll remember most from this Red River shootout?
Man, I just think I really like at the end of that game where the game is put away and there's so much pride on these guys to say, hey, it doesn't matter. The game's not at 0. We're not letting OU score on us, right? They could have easily said, hey, the game's over. We're out of hand. Let's start celebrating. Let's start having fun. But they took pride in not letting them score. So that's going to be number one. And I think it goes to my number two, which is the character of this team and the locker room environment that Sark has built when he got there and wanted to have. It has arrived. It is there. When you've got guys like Bolden going and making plays the way he did, when you've got guys that, a defense that has really rallied around and picked up for the offense, and then the offense be able to, I mean, this was not a complete team game win per se. Let me rephrase that. This was one of those games where the defense really needed to pick up the offense, and there's going to be games where the offense really needs to pick up the defense. And when you have a team that understands that and says, hey, you guys are down, don't worry about it, we got you. Right, that's a good thing to have. The culture of this team and what Sark is building is definitely there. And then the third thing I'm going to take away from this is I said it early in the show. This team still has not played its best game yet. I think sky's the limit for this team, and I think I've said this before too. I look at the 2005 national championship team that we were on, and I think as a team, like, we had that camaraderie, we had that bond, we had some very talented players. We had a hell of an offense. We had a really good defense. I can say a lot of great things about that. I really believe that last year's team and this year's team is more talented on a player-to-player basis than what that team was. Now, whether they finish it out or not, that's on them. And you got to figure out a way to do that. But I think when you look at the talent, just the on-paper talent of this football team, I think if they're not the most talented, they're one of the top three most talented teams in Texas history. I really believe that.
Wow. No pre-snap, living rent-free says something that we need to mention too. No pre-snap penalties today. I want to add to that, when you all were talking about the offensive line a little bit, two penalties on the offensive line today. One, a hold on DJ Campbell. He may have held, and it looked like he may have disengaged just in time, but they called it because I think Texas was winning big. They're going to call them when your team's winning big. They didn't call those on OU when they were losing, by the way, a couple times. But that, and then also Cam Williams got a personal foul penalty that was an offsetting after they hit Quinn Ewers.
Exactly. You had to do that. I'm not mad about that penalty. I get it.
Yeah. Hey, Rod, what are your takeaways? Just thinking through what you heard Brian say there as well.
I like the point that Brian made about it meant something to them for Oklahoma not to score a touchdown. He put some of the starters back here. Like, I don't know, stop this. It means a lot. My hope is that the starters put themselves back here. Like, hell no, I'm going back out there. Hey, they ain't scoring a touchdown on us. Yeah.
There's Anthony Hill. He did have something to say, guys.
So they would, they made sure Baker Mayfield. I wonder what Baker Mayfield's got to say. That, who's, by the way, having a pretty good season in the NFL right now. I wonder what Baker Mayfield's got to say. There will be a retort from Baker Mayfield. I guarantee you that. But anyway, I like the fact that this team can win ugly. You got to be able to win ugly. And not just win ugly, still win in a commanding fashion, like win in a decisive manner, but still win ugly. And they can do that by in other ways, not just the offense. They don't necessarily need the offense to be having a perfect game to blow an opponent out. This was about defense and special teams and culture, and about the running game and about your offensive line imposing their will. So it just showed me this team's got a lot of different elements to it. It's got some depth to the kind of the character of the team, and they're still growing, man. This team is still building on something. I think that's no doubt really special. I don't want to jinx it, but this is special. We're witnessing something pretty special. We know it at this point.
What it reminds Brian, you're talking about that last stand for Texas. You know what it kind of reminds? It's different, totally different teams and different game. Texas kept Sam Bradford and OU out of the end zone at the very end of that 45-35 game. You remember that? Sam Bradford had him down there with like 5-10 seconds left. Earl Thomas made that play. Those kind of things, to y'all's point, it's a little bit about pride, and you got to show you have it at all times, not just when you want it. That's indicative of the Silas Bolden play that you talked about as well. I remember the DeAndre Moore block, that little edge block, just very little things like that can separate.
And to add that, the DeAndre Moore block, but right before that on the same play, the Marcus Golden block. If you look at it, both them guys sealed the outside of that Oklahoma defense to spring him free to score that touchdown. So two wide receivers that are not known for blocking, and I'm not just saying those two, but I'm talking about any wide receivers not known for blocking. And you had two wide receivers on the same play that because of them sprung a touchdown. That is culture at its finest.
I love it, man. I really do. I think it's tremendous that the Longhorns right now are doing out there. They also had big plays from a couple of freshmen. I want to mention that our boy Colin Simmons, clearly one of those guys that was spying at certain times, continues to show just a preternatural ability to play football. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's just, sometimes you got a little something extra in you. He's got a little something extra, as does Ryan Wingo. The wide receiver, not only did he make that catch on that, Texas did not throw the ball on slants hardly at all today. I think they wanted to keep it away from the OU linebackers, keep them out of the passing lanes maybe. But when Wingo caught that one and then kind of just went jetted, and then he had the long return as well, or the long reverse as well. Good stuff there from a couple of key freshmen for the Longhorns as well. All right, we're going to get to a couple of super chats here, guys. Run through these because everybody's excited, I think, about the Longhorns win 34-3 over Oklahoma. Don't think Oklahoma's going to be ranked 18 next week if we see them. Eric Mitchell, love the defensive physicality and consistency. Offensively, we should have put up at least 48 with the opportunities we had. Yes, and I would add this, the slow start kind of hurt you a little bit, not unlike it did against Mississippi State 2 weeks ago, right? Yep. The slow start kind of predicated what ended up happening. Casey says, I'm smoking a stogie celebrating Hook'em and OU sucks. It is 6:52. I gotta show you all this. I was at the Texas stuff today. Nice. OU sucks. I took that. I took that from a friend, and he gave it to me today. And I was like, "Yeah, we'll take that." Who got injured? I just got here. We talked a little bit about that. That was Isaiah Bond and Derek Williams. We think maybe Andrew Makuba, but we don't, at least at this point, have a real one. We got
one more that got injured.
Who's that?
OU's pride.
Yeah.
I had to. I'm sorry, I had to.
Kenny Stutzman didn't hustle to the end zone for that. That was that's their culture guy.
Yeah.
And Silas Bolden.
That was good. I like that. That was good.
That was
cool. That was well played. The comedic timing was.
Very good.
It was tremendous. I took you seriously. I was like, who else got hurt?
Eric Mitchell, Silas Bolden, game ball. That hustle play was a solidifying momentum swing, in my opinion. Yep. Absolutely. Marcos, I think Quinn playing mediocre and still winning is positive. I don't know that he played mediocre in the second from the second quarter on. I think he had a bad first quarter, but he really needs to be more sharp next week. Amen. I think we all agree with that. Any concerns with Blue? Wisner looks like RB1. I want to ask y'all a question. One thing I noticed, I think Wisner is a little more patient with the running lanes, maybe because Blue's trying to use his speed so much. Do y'all see that at all between those two? What do y'all make of the difference between Wisner, who had such a good game, and Blue? Brian, you're on the defensive line a lot and saw a lot of those, special running backs in the NFL over the years. What did you make of the difference between the two running backs?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think when Trevion's a little bit more patient, he's looking for the lanes to open up. He's giving his offensive line time. Kind of like a Le'Veon Bell type guy. Like, you'd see him kind of get real patient behind the offensive line, wait for it to open up, and then he hit it. There was also, I think there was a lot of design cutback runs that also made things look like that. When you look at it, a lot of those plays were made to either bounce outside or cut back by bringing a guy back and kind of pushing him out, the end defender out to open up that outside gap. I also look at Jaden Blue, and I think I think with him, he is much more of a north and south runner. Like he wants to get going north and south very quickly. If there's a certain play call, like he's going to hit the gap, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're playing different teams, I think there's going to be guys that have the hot hand. The other thing is I think a lot of people are going to look at this game and they're going to be like, well, who's RB1? Well, in my opinion, you don't need an RB1. You just need to give it to the guy who's got the hot hand. And you saw that today with Oklahoma. Quintravion Wisner was the guy who had the hot hand. Next week, you go into Georgia, they got some guys that are going to be really physical up front. Jaden Blue may be the guy that can get north and south on those guys when they don't expect it, and he may be the guy that gets the hot hand. So I don't think you necessarily have to lay your hat on a guy being RB1, RB2. I just think you got to utilize the guys to their abilities when you need them. And I think that's what you saw today was Trey Wisner's ability to be able to cut back, get to the backside, read the lanes opening when they did, gave Texas the most success in a run game today.
All right. I think we have something here that Matt wants us to cut to. It is off of Twitter. Matt, is that you want us to cut to that from there or no? Is that a yes or a no? I'm talking to our producer here. We'll come back to it in a little bit, guys. But look, I hear you on no RB1, RB2 because I think it's going to take them both. They're going to both be needed. Sark clearly loves throwing to Jaden Blue out in the flat, and there's reasons for that. I mean, he looks tremendous.
Yep.
Well, I think ultimately that's what. Yeah, nice. I like. It actually kind of fits Sark a little bit.
I was going to say it fits, right?
It's right. That thing is small, ain't it? I know you probably put it on your head, B-Rob. This thing's kind of small, ain't it?
Yeah, it's pretty small. I got a really small head, and it almost fit me. So, yeah, it's a very small hat.
No, that's sweet, man. That's nice. I like that. But no, about the running back position, I'll say this. I think they had a plan for Jaden Blue prior to the season, prior to C.J. Baxter going down, and they had a vision for him, how they wanted to deploy him and utilize him. With the, performance now of Trey Wisner in back-to-back weeks, it looks like now, at least in back-to-back games, I should say, it looks like now you may be able to put Jaden Blue kind of back in that role you initially envisioned for him. Because I think you could have Trey Wisner running some of those, power schemes, some of those gap runs, some of in between the tackle runs, and you can get Jaden Blue on the perimeter a little bit more like you anticipated. So it might just be a blessing in disguise that Trey Wisner now has stepped up in this role, and you don't have to overburden Jaden Blue with making him do things that don't fit his skill set. Hey, there's Jerry.
Well, first the hat. This is what my son's wearing right now.
Nice.
Hey, I just on here for a second. I wanted Rod. I'm listening to you guys. I love listening to B-Rob and Rod, but I wanted y'all to talk about one thing, and then I'm exiting. Silas Bolden transfers to Texas. He comes in with high expectations for himself, and it probably in his mind hasn't gone how he thought it would at the receiver position. I know you guys had a teammate like that, or y'all went through something like that in your careers. Talk about Silas Bolden for me, because we talked about it, Rod, during the end game. We wondered earlier this season who would make a Jordan Whittington play like TCU, where it's just all heart. And I just wanted to come on here and give Silas Bolden some credit, because things have probably not gone according to his plan in his head, but he stuck with it. And that play he made today, that ain't a kid that grew up with a Longhorn jersey on. That's a kid who transferred into Texas and made an all-heart play in the biggest rivalry game he'll ever play in his life. So I just wanted y'all to talk about it, and I want to say thanks to the chat. Thank you for y'all's continued support, and we'll talk to y'all in a little while.
Appreciate it, Jerry. Hey,
Thanks, Jerry.
I agree with Jerry on this. And the thing that I want to say about it that I would add is that's a guy that's going to win in life some which way. You know what I mean? Because that's not – you can talk about it being a Texas culture thing, and it surely is. I don't want to take that away from the team, but that's a guy that you're going to be – you want him in your foxhole. Does that make sense to you guys? Y'all
Yep.
agree with that? When y'all saw that, you're sitting there looking at, you know what? That guy can play ball with me anytime. Is that that's kind of how y'all feel about it as former players?
Well, I think also they're recruiting, I keep going back to what Jeff Banks said a few years ago on signing day on LHN. And, he was doing an interview and he said, we're just looking for signs, of respect, signs that they're compatible with our culture and our program, signs that they'll be a good teammate. There's just certain things we're looking for in players that we're bringing on campus. And I think now they've come up with a pretty, a checklist right now that has given them a pretty good hit rate on the types of players they're bringing in. Not all of them are going to be A.D. Mitchells of the world, and come in and immediately, come from the transfer portal and be NFL players, but they can come in and they do fit the culture and they do fit your locker room. And so I think that's part of it too. So I agree. I think the young man has got exceptional football character, but I think on top of that, Texas is looking for football character. It is something that they are prioritizing and emphasizing when they bring in guys. They're like, and Jeff Banks said, there are a lot of great players out there that we don't recruit and we don't target. And he said, it's because we don't see the signs. And we're like, I don't see the signs. He's a hell of a player, but I don't see the signs. He's not going to work here. I don't know if he'd work here. And that's why lately they've having more success with those guys they're bringing in, specifically transfer portal guys, than some of the guys they were bringing in early in Sark's tenure. Remember, some of those guys didn't work out so much. Now these guys are hitting a little bit more. Why? They've narrowed down the checklist of the signs they're looking for, and they know what they're looking for. And a lot of it is intangibles. A lot of it is the intangible, the immeasurables that you guys are discussing.
Bree Rob, what do you think of that?
I think I agree with everything Rod said. The only thing I would add to it is I think what you're starting to see a great combination of NIL and winning championships. And what I mean by that is you're getting a combination of guys who are coming to Texas, A, because of the NIL, B, because they want to win a championship. And I think what you're talking about right there, let's talk about Silas Bolden. Silas Bolden is a guy that probably came to Texas because he saw some opportunities he could have stayed at Oregon State and been the man. There's no doubt about it. Could have been the man there. But I think he saw an opportunity where he could broaden his horizons by coming to Austin, going to the University of Texas, getting some NIL deals, putting some money in his pockets, things like that, but also an opportunity to win a championship. And I think that gets lost in the sight of a lot of the guys with the NIL deals now. And what I mean by that is you look at a guy like Stark. I guarantee you there's some sort of conversation, and I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but it probably goes something like this. Hey, you come to Texas, I will help you reach your potential in NIL. Your job is to help me reach my potential by winning championships. And that's where I think teams start to set themselves apart. I think when you look at a team like Alabama with Nick Saban wouldn't put up with NIL stuff nowadays. It's like, you're coming here to help me win a championship. Like, it's your job to go out on the field and compete and do your job on the field to get your NIL deals, right? But I think that goes back to what Rod says. And the reason I made that whole point is that is the culture, right? The culture is, hey, we're going to get the utmost that we can get out of our players. You should expect the utmost out of yourself to help you put your name and your brand out there. But at the same time, you're going to help us get our name and our brand out there by being on top. And I think you're seeing that good combination of that's very rare right now in college football.
Look, to your point, and I've been covering recruiting for 25, 30 years, I guess 30 years, Jesus. Where did the time go? But what I would tell y'all, and y'all both came to Texas. Now, Rod came a little bit before Texas started winning again, a little bit different. But players want to win, man. That's what they want. And Brian, you guys both been in the NFL. The money from everybody is the same color. It's green everywhere, right? And so you got to go where you want to believe that you can be developed and where you can win. And if Sark he's doing that in the NFL draft. We saw that last year, right? Yep. Y'all, Brian, you just told me you think it's one of the three most talented teams Texas has had earlier in this conversation. That whole, I don't know what you want to call it, melting pot or whatever's happening at Texas, it's working its way to this area right now. Longhorns, just really good football team at this point in the season. We'll see if they become a great football team. To y'all's point, right? They probably still haven't played their best game to date against a quality opponent, but they've blown out everybody.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. We were talking about how disappointing of a game it was against Mississippi State, right? That was not too long ago. Looking at today, Georgia beat Mississippi State 41-31. So it goes back to my point. Any given Saturday, like, you got to show up and play. Like, it's not like, Rod, you know how it was, man. Used to, we could just show up on Saturday, and it was like, who's on the schedule? Kansas on the schedule? Shoot, okay, all right. That's my stat padding day.
Yeah, right.
Stat padding day, right? You don't have those anymore. Like, you got to give everything you got to win. And I mean, I just think that's what you're seeing out of college football. Who would have thought? Before, let's just say 5 years ago, who would have ever thought Vanderbilt would beat Alabama?
Nobody.
Nobody. And nowadays, there's so much going on with transfer portal and NIL deals and just the ins and outs of college football. I think the parity has laid out there to where anybody can compete on any given Saturday if you got the right game plan, if you got the right attitude. And to me, that's what you're starting to see. So, I mean, as long as this Texas football team shows up every Saturday ready to play, they have a chance at winning a championship. But the second they let that kind of idea that, hey, we've arrived, that's when it's going to sneak and bite you.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian Robison. Rod and Brian, we've got Steve Sarkisian now in the post game. This is a performance from what a game! One hell of a performance by Anthony Hilgett. That's how you take the L.
That's how you do it.
Yep.
That's how you take the L if you say something. You just end up and say, "Hey, good job." You know what I mean? That's a hat tip to him, even though he's a Sooner. Hat tip to him. All right, so we've got the Steve Sarkisian, a little bit of the press conference, I believe. Matt, if you don't mind queuing it up and playing it for us.
Yeah, first of all, really proud of these guys, proud of the team. You get into games like this, and there's so much emotion involved that you can get distracted in the emotion. You can get distracted by the adversity. And I'm really proud of this group and the whole team, and these guys in particular, because they bought into the preparation, and they continue to do it week in and week out. That we really believe in a formula for success around here, and that starts on Monday and continues Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, where they can be in a really good place knowing, heck, yeah, there's going to be some adversity. As long as we stick together, right, we can turn the corner. And then today's game was no different. First quarter was tough. We're a little off offensively. They got the lead, but I don't think anybody panicked, and that's a sign of a really good team. We showed great poise and composure. Second quarter was obviously huge in the ball game. Some critical third down conversions. DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, Trey showed up, Trey Wisner, and then the defense started turning the ball over and stopping the run, and the game went the way that it went. So proud of the guys. Like I told them in the locker room, it's a great win. Getting the golden hat back is a tremendous honor for these guys to have their part of their legacy here. We're going to enjoy it, but the journey's far from over. We got more work to do.
Love that. More work to do. Guys, he talked a little bit about what y'all were talking about. He used the word composure, a different word than what we used, but Texas showed that they were an adult team today, right? They were the ones that played through a little bit. They looked really off on offense, but the defense kind of hung in there the whole way. And then he said they showed different ways to win football games. Y'all hit on that right out of the gate. And props to you guys. What y'all think about what Sark had to say?
No, wait. I love the composure thing, right? No panic. There was no panic. That now that he said that, that's what it reminded me watching the game. Even though I think they were ready for a fight, even though we knew Oklahoma was severely overmatched, Texas was ready for a fight, and they got a little bit of it early on, and that's why there was no panic. This team, they were ready to respond to adversity. We know in this game, adversity will present itself in some way, form, or fashion. You just don't know exactly how it's going to materialize, right? Sometimes it's injury. Sometimes it's, whatever. I mean, last year was a little bit different too. Maybe a tendency breaker, whatever it may be. This year it was Quinn's not playing his best game. Quinn, you couldn't necessarily put the game in Quinn's hands. And most of the time you can put it in his hands and trust him. And that's okay because, obviously great players have off games. And yet you allowed your running game, it ended up imposing its will on Oklahoma, a really good defense. And your defense rose to the occasion, created turnovers, and really asserted itself. So I think ultimately you just found you had other ways to win, which is cool. I love that picture, though. It's fantastic.
Dude, I looked down and I saw that, and I'm sorry, I couldn't stay composed. there's your conversation. I couldn't stay composed.
It is, Brian. Your head's a little bit smaller than it is.
Yeah.
Good on him, though.
That's the bad thing is that's not even the picture I was talking about. If you scroll down a little bit further, there was a.
I don't want to know, Brian.
Oh, Matt, God. There it is, right there. Their arch, our arch.
Uh-oh.
Oh no! But to kind of add to what Rob was saying, that there was a couple of times where, and I'm going to go in a different direction, right? Because we've kind of talked about this throughout the show here. There was a couple of times in that game where things got heated and you saw a Texas player come in and grab another Texas player like, hey, that's enough. Like, let's get back to the huddle. And dude, that is invaluable, especially in a game like this where composure is at the utmost, because those silly penalties like that can come back to haunt you. And to have players on the team that can be the leaders and go grab a young guy or go grab just one of their teammates and say, hey, like we got to go back. Like, don't worry about him. Don't worry about the John. Don't worry about none of that. Let's not hurt ourselves, but let's just keep grinding it out and put the punishment to him in a different way, right? Like that needs to get added into that. That hats off to those guys that did it. I think Jake Majors, I saw him do it once. And like I said, there was one or two other instances. And I mean, to me, that's great, man. When you got guys that can step up and be those type of leaders on the teams, that's a whole different type of composure that we're talking about. But absolutely, I think with those two deals that Rod just talked about and what I'm talking about there, it shows the maturity of a football team, right? Like, this is a mature football team that understands the bigger picture than just one play or, putting their name and getting NIL deals and things like that. They are there for a reason, for a true reason of getting to where they want to get into Texas immortality.
Yeah, right.
I love it, man. I love it. I got to say this real quick. Go ahead. Go with this one. There's Colin Simmons, guys. You know that hat's going around the room right now. Everybody's taking pictures.
That's
there we go.
Yeah, man.
I love it. Let's look at a couple of these. Kelvin Banks right there, right? Isn't that Kelvin?
Alfred.
It's Alfred. Okay. Hey, here we go. We got a couple more super chats we're going to get to. We got about 10 more minutes. We're going to go here and take your questions, talk a little bit more about the Longhorns win in Big D over the Oklahoma Sooners. Charlie, was Gunnar Helm just hidden, or did he take a big step in the off season? It's 6:47. Well, now it's 7:13, and yes, OU. Helm did take a big step in the off season, but you know what? This is one of those guys that Sark and Jeff Banks took and knew it was going to take him a while to bake. You know what I mean? He needed to get. He came in 215 pounds, 220 pounds. Now he's up to two. I mean, that takes a while, and to not lose your athleticism or quickness or speed along the way takes the right kind of training regimen and dedication on his behalf. I really appreciate the super chat, Charlie. Thank you very much. Nancy Shell's asking about the Bonds injury. We got nothing on that other than he was in street clothes on the sideline in a walking boot during the
I think they're saying he said it was an ankle.
An ankle?
That's
saying that now?
Yeah, he sustained an ankle injury.
Okay. Got it. Thanks, Rod. Dave Bayer, great job pregame, in-game, post-game to the OTF team. Appreciate you guys. Assuming we see a lot more 3 safety looks the rest of the season, how do we get our wide receivers open early? Our early Quinn had some open guys crossing the middle. Question for you two guys in that regard. Sark didn't look like he had much of a problem figuring out the 3 high safety as the game wore on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Those design cutback runs apart. I like how Brian described that earlier in this. He thinks that some of those were design cutbacks. I didn't necessarily see that in live action, but thinking about it now, you could kind of tell how Weiser wasn't pushing the outside as much on those big ones.
Yep. And I'll say, I think if because there were a lot of different looks too. It wasn't all 3 high. They went with a lot of 3 high and 2 high safeties. So Sark started light box and decided if they're gonna give me the light box and keep dropping back these very exotic looks. I saw him dropping back. They got to a 2 high look with a guy from the second level, dropped all the way back to the 2 high. I mean, Brent Venables was doing some freaky stuff early because he's a brilliant, creative, kind of defensive coordinator. So I think ultimately Sark decided I'm gonna work smarter, not harder here, and they're gonna give me the light box. I'm gonna take it, and they just ran it on them.
Hey, I want to give somebody a hat tip. Tony Hills, who came on with us, he was out at the fairground today. I walked over to him and he said, "We're going to kick their you know what." That's what he told me today, and he texted me just now and said, "I told you, Bobby, we're going to do it," and they sure did. John Franks, right. I'll never drive while doing the winning Willie Ricky diet. Thank you. Thank you, John, for everyone. It's a sunny day on Washington Beach. No place else I'd want to be. You guys are the best in the business. No Diddy D. Wow. John, thank you.
No, okay. That thing coming with that no Diddy D. Oh, y'all keep saying that. I don't like it.
I ain't doing that now. Colin Davis, I thought OU had a good run defense. Texas may have something to say about that with that offensive line. The Texas offensive front is legit. Are they perfect? No. I mean, they're not perfect. They're pretty darn good. And
they're top 5 in the country.
Hey, what y'all think of pass protection from Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks? After the first series, I mean, they just tried to drop and play. I mean, they gave up kind of pushing that envelope a little bit with their pass.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, at the end of the day, like you're getting and that's what opened up some of the run. And that's going to be the test the rest of the season is do you cover the pass or do you play the run? Because in many ways, it's going to be hard to do both. And it's almost a pick your poison type deal. And here's the other deal, man. Like, I'm going to get a whole other tangent here going. But when you look at this game, I mean, we were asked about the 3 high safety look a while ago. That first 2 drives, there was wide open receivers. They just got missed. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit did a great job on the TV copy of highlighting the overthrows that we had, and then also just kind of him not being able to get his feet set or for whatever reason not hitting some of the open guys. It was there. That game should have started a lot faster than what it did. And then secondly, we got told a while ago that they should have scored 48 points. Well, on my estimation, they should have scored 51 because they had a missed field goal. They went for it on 4th down. They got the 4th down, but there was a holding penalty that drew it back. Okay, they probably would have scored 7 on that one. And then you had the throw, the trick play to I think it was to Golden and wide open. That should have been a touchdown, right? So that should have been a 51-point ball game. Okay, and then you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, 34-3 win should have been a 51-3 win, and you're looking at a team that went 5 of 13 on 3rd down. You're looking at a team that, when you look at it, you're going to say, oh, they went 4 for 6 in the red zone, but they only scored 1 touchdown in the red zone. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken. I know I got it written down here. Maybe they scored 1 late.
That was a throwback to him.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you are too.
So 1 touchdown in the red zone out of 6 trips.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, this was a mollywhopping, and you look at it from a open mind standpoint, and it still wasn't pretty for Texas offense, anyways.
Yeah.
That's just a hats off of like, if you get these things corrected, it's going to be hard for anybody in the country to play with you. And now the question is, we've been very critical of these guys for the last, 2 or 3 games. The point is, you got to get it fixed, right? When you start playing games like you're going to play next week with Georgia, and you start really getting deep in this SEC schedule, and I hate to say it, you get towards the end of the year against A&M, you go to an SEC championship that you're hopefully going to be in, you get in the playoffs. These are going to be the things that you're going to have to fix, and so they are going to have to get on it. They're going to have to get on the ball and make sure that they kind of tidy up some of these little things.
Love it, man. This one from Art and so much more. Defense has only given up 3 TDs in 6 games. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never been a part of any defense that did that. Unless, Ryan, your Little League team's doing that these days.
Hey, since you bring it up, okay, I do want this to be known, all right? In 7 games, we have pitched 4 shutouts. No, 5 shutouts. Okay, 5 shutouts, and we've only given up on defense. We've only given up 3 touchdowns in 7 games. So my focus is better than Texas defense.
is that the under 9 or under 10 league there at Belleville?
That's the 5th and 6th grade group. Yep.
There you go. All right, I already did. I like that.
I love it, bro. You look great.
Like
hey. Here's the worst thing a dad that's trying to teach his kids football could do. Look across the field and see Brian Robison on the other side coaching the guys up. You're like, I don't know about this game today.
It's pros versus Joes out here.
Hey, I will say this. Next week we gonna have our hands full. It's we got a good football team we got to play against. So it's gonna be a battle, and hopefully we'll pull it out. Pull it out.
So Longhorns got a big one. Y'all got y'all big test next week, huh?
Yeah, exactly. We got the big test in the morning, okay, and then we got the big test in the afternoon that I'm going to have to watch too.
Hey, that's just about going to do it here for our post-game show. We got more coming, hopefully some tonight as well. This has been brought to you by our friends Flight, the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 carbs. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling, thanks to the fine folks at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing, as well as all of our game day sponsors, including Hargrove Roofing, Duck Camp, South Point Dodge, and Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you all very much for making everything possible here. Any closing thoughts from Rod or B-Rob? Do y'all have anything y'all want to add other than Texas just whipped out Oklahoma's ass today? Because they really did.
Texas style butt whipping they put on them. It's time to get ready for Georgia now, though. Y'all know what it is. It's this team is capable of great things, and they shouldn't have shown us that, because now we're gonna try to hold them to that standard every week. They shouldn't have shown us how good they are. That's what Coach Shipley always say. Y'all shouldn't have shown us how good you are. This team has a chance to be really, really good. Great. That chance to be really great.
Wow. I love it, guys. Brian, do you have anything closing thought?
Well, I mean, I think for me, I really enjoy, I just want to put this out there now. I really enjoy working with you and Rod. I've really enjoyed this. I think this whole team does a great job. And man, it's 7:24 and
you suck.
Baby.
I'll say it for you. Hey, wait a minute. Before we leave, guys, we got one last guy we got to bring in. Oh, my goodness. He's got the lights are on the Cotton Bowl. The lights are on the Cotton Bowl. Hey, you were down there, CJ. What did you have to hear from Sark, Brent Venables, and the press conferences, man?
It was a very solemn Brent Venables, I'll say that. Normally an energetic guy, normally a guy with a lot of charisma, not one today here at the press conference after this game. And, of course, why would there have been some energy from Venables after that performance, especially from the offensive side of the ball? One thing I thought that was pretty interesting is they never thought about making the switch at quarterback throughout that entire game. I think obviously we know why with Jackson Arnold and what his future might be at Oklahoma. I'm saying I don't think that future at Oklahoma is going to be very lengthy there. Of course, for Oklahoma, that was the worst Oklahoma offense I've seen in my lifetime in this game. And credit to the Texas defense. I thought they played very sound. They did not allow many plays to extend beyond 15 yards. I think that was actually the longest play of the day allowed. So all the way through, Sarkisian said the Texas offense very strugglish at first. It was a pathetic first quarter, but the adjustments came just in time. You found ways to create big plays in the running game with Trey Wisner. I thought that the inside zone was working very well. He was reading cuts. He was patient. That's kind of his strengths in that game. He said that we made the proper adjustments there that allowed us to come in and put 34 on the board and come away with the win. All in all, very dominant for the defense, and that's one of those games, Brian and Rod, I think y'all can attest to this. You come out of a game like this where there was just nothing working offensively in a rivalry game, you're going to be feeling on the moon quite a bit, and they exuded that a little bit in the press conference this afternoon.
Hey, I'm told that Sark was feeling it so much that he arrived at the press conference with a Fletcher's corn dog.
He sure did. He walked in, Bobby, and it was about half eaten. So he kept it, held it underneath the table, and when questions were going to Quinn and Michael Taff and Anthony Hill, he would sneak bites here and there. But he got his first Fletcher's corn dog, and he got the golden hat coming back to Austin.
All right, CJ, thank you so much, bud. There's the corn dog right there in his hand. I love it, dude.
Hey, real quick before CJ goes, CJ, turn around in that field and tell me we should not have a night Red River rivalry game.
Oh, look at him.
I mean,
Wow.
Look at this. Come on.
Yeah, come on now.
Am I right?
Come on now. Hey, just move. Hey, move Big Tex and put him up in the top of the stands and let's roll with it.
I like that. I like that thinking.
I love it. Good stuff, Brian. All right, Brian, thank you so much. Rod B, thank you. And CJ, thanks for checking in. We'll have more from Texas OU Longhorns, victorious 6-0 on the season, ranked number 1 in the country. Good football team for the Longhorns right now. Congrats to Steve Sarkisian and all those guys that put it on the line for the Longhorns today. Thank y'all very much. Also to our producer, Matt Hutchinson, and for all of you guys out there, we'll have more. And hook 'em, guys. Great game. Hook 'em.